around the 32 starting today, we have 8 games today, headlined by I think the biggest game of the day, I believe, is Vanderbilt, Nebraska. What do you guys think on that? I'm gonna shoot it over to you, Evan, first. What do you think on that, man?
Well, first of all, I will be in attendance at that game, so that's going to be hopefully it's a good one. There are tons of Nebraska fans at the hotel I'm staying at right now, but
Ooh, an Evan bombshell on the podcast.
an Evan
Damn.
Bombshell, yeah, I will be at that one in the Houston A&M one because those are like you get a combined deal for those. So that's pretty nice. I would probably agree. There's going to be a few decent amount. Like we're watching Michigan right now. Currently they're up by 8. I think they'll probably pull away. VCU was a cool story, beating North Carolina. I think Illinois is going to be too powerful for them. We'll see how High Point does against Arkansas, but that's the SEC champion. I think that's going to be a little tougher than Wisconsin, but yeah, that Vandy Nebraska game, I'm looking forward to that one. That's gonna be pretty good. So I would have to agree.
Yeah, I think the Vandy Nebraska game, it's weird. So going into the NCAA tournament, Nebraska had never won a game in the Big Dance. And now they have that under them. They have a chance to make the Sweet 16 against what I think is not exactly the best basketball history at Vanderbilt, but obviously they're having a really good season. SEC runner up, 5 seed in their bracket. So it's just fun to see those two schools have a chance at the Sweet 16. I don't know if Vanderbilt has ever made the Sweet 16, but I know for a fact Nebraska hasn't.
Yeah, I think this game is very interesting because you look at both teams. Both teams weren't that great last year, and then they turn around, they're in the round of 32 playing each other. So I think that, when you look at the turnaround these two teams had is very impressive. No, but I think the second most interesting game of this round of 32, and I know you, Evan, you and I disagree on this game, is Louisville and Michigan State. You got Michigan State winning, I got Louisville winning. I think Jordan picked Michigan State, if I'm not mistaken.
I didn't make a bracket, but I would pick Michigan State to win this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically the same game with Louisville too. I mean, they weren't that great last year. Hung around there in the round of 32, playing Michigan State. They're only underdogs by 4.5. So, you look at that and you like Louisville they could win this game, but then you look at a game like Duke and TCU, Duke's 13-point favorites. Duke barely, I don't want to say barely beat them, so Siena, but they had like a scale, but they pulled it out at the end. So I think that's definitely. But who do we one of the questions I want to ask is who do we have in the Sweet 16?
Well, I want to we'll go over some of my Sweet 16 winners, but I want to go over because I think tomorrow actually has some of the better games, at least in my opinion. I do think the Louisville Michigan State game is going to be pretty good. I do think Michigan State is the one who will advance to the Sweet 16. But I could definitely see Louisville winning. I just think Michigan State in the Big Ten is a little bit more battle tested. Louisville started super strong versus USF, but then even that got a little bit close. So we'll see how that goes. I think Michigan State should win. 3 games I'm also, in addition to Nebraska and Vanderbilt tonight, 3 games tomorrow I'm really looking forward to. Jake's gonna like this. I am looking forward to that Miami Purdue game. I think Miami, they have had their ups and downs, but overall a pretty solid team versus Purdue, who have been super hot of late. Don't get me wrong, maybe a little bit of a scare last night versus Furman. Played them a little bit close, but they've played really well. They won the Big Ten, but it has not been complete smooth sailing for them this season. So I'm looking, they're going to face a really good Miami team. A little bit more of a test with than Furman. We'll see. Purdue probably should win that game, but I picked Miami in the upset of my bracket. So we'll see how that goes. And then 2 other ones, I think St. John's and Kansas, that's going to be a really good game. Yes, Kansas sort of squeaked by in round one, but they're still really good and St. John's just demolished Northern Iowa. So that one's going to be a good 5-4. And then also, I'm looking forward to UCLA and UConn. I think that might be an interesting one. I did pick UConn to win that game, but UCLA can play some pretty good ball, and they've beaten some good teams this year. They've beaten Illinois and I think some other like really top teams. So Those are the three I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. So yeah, I'll let you guys give some of your Sweet 16 winners and then or teams going on the Sweet 16, then I'll come back with maybe a few more of mine.
Well, I mentioned before that I did not make a bracket, so I can only go based off who's in the round of 32. I can promise you that I would not have all 32 of these teams in there. Probably except for, High Point. But I'll take Michigan, Michigan State, Duke, Houston. I think Texas knocks off Gonzaga, actually. I don't know what you guys think about that one. It's really quick.
I will cry if that happens because I have Gonzaga in my final two, so that would make me cry. But I could see it happening, unfortunately. Yeah.
Jake, just real quick, what do you think about that one?
So I have Gonzaga, and I know this is going to be a shock, but I have Gonzaga losing in the Sweet 16 in Miami. So I only have them going one more round. I I could definitely see Texas knocking off Gonzaga. I will not cry, unlike Evan, if that happens, but I could definitely see it happening.
All right, so going on, I would have Illinois. I would pick Vanderbilt to beat Nebraska. I would pick Arkansas to beat High Point. I'm sorry, Jake, but I would pick Purdue to beat Miami. I would pick Kentucky to upset Iowa State. I would pick Kansas over St. John's, Virginia over Tennessee. As much as I hate to do it, I would pick Florida over Iowa, Arizona over Utah State, UConn over UCLA, and Alabama over Texas Tech.
All right.
So that would be my Sweet 16 if my bracket looked exactly like this.
I was going to say pretty solid picks. I'll probably agree on a decent amount. And again, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, I do have a perfect Sweet 16 for the moment. That probably will not last much longer. But with that said, maybe you should listen up. So I've got Michigan State winning, Duke winning, uh, Houston winning. Who else? Gonzaga, of course, winning. Like I've said, I need them big. I've got Illinois winning. I've got Vanderbilt winning as the 5-over-4 versus Nebraska. I've got Arkansas winning, and then moving on to tomorrow, I've got Miami in the upset, Iowa State, St. John's, Virginia. Not too many upsets there. Although St. John's technically 5-4. I've got Florida winning, of course, they're going to keep dominating. Arizona, UConn, I almost wanted to pick UCLA, but I didn't. I think I picked UConn to beat them. And then I've got Alabama winning. So, Jake, what about you?
Yeah, some very interesting picks. I'm just gonna rattle them off here real quick. I'm gonna go East to Midwest. I got Duke, Duke over TCU. I got Kansas over St. John's. I got Louisville over Michigan State. That's where we disagree with on there. So we definitely have a bracket going. That will be very interesting. Whoever wins that game is gonna take a lead into the round of 16, into the Sweet 16. I got UConn over UCLA, Florida over Iowa, Vanderbilt over Nebraska. I think Vanderbilt will keep their March Madness journey going. I think they will roll. Um, Illinois over VCU, F, Houston over Texas A&M, Arizona over Utah State, Arkansas over High Point, Gonzaga over Texas, Miami over Purdue, obviously Michigan over St. Louis. Alabama over Texas Tech, Virginia over Tennessee, and Iowa State over Kentucky.
And just one quick point: if both Florida and Vanderbilt win their respective round of 32 games, that would be a rematch of the SEC semifinal where Vanderbilt dominated Florida. So that would just be something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. I almost wanted when I was filling out my bracket, I had Vanderbilt beating Florida for a little bit, and then at the last second, I changed back to Florida because I wanted to. I always like to disagree a little because I play in. Well, I always play Jake year round, and he usually beats me, unfortunately. But that's going to change this year. But I also always usually play in a big pool of about 100 people, and usually I try to find like, okay, where can I disagree on one thing so I can try to get the jump. And I thought it might be that Vanderbilt Florida matchup, but I think Florida's too dominant. I think if that matchup happens, they'll win.